on the Texas A&M Sports Network. From Learfield, welcome to the Aggie Football Hour, brought to you by Capital Farm Credit, a leader in agricultural financing. Also brought to you in part by Coors Light, Choose Chill, and Gig 'em Aggies. 2024 Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Celebrate responsibly. Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue. Visit Rudy's.com to find real Texas barbecue near you. Twisted Tea, hard iced tea for the 12th man. Please drink responsibly. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Texas. Through it all. And by Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better. Now, the Aggie Football Hour, brought to you by Capital Farm Credit, a leader in agricultural financing. Here's the voice of the Aggies, Andrew Monaco.
And it's time for our first correction of the evening. Andrew Monaco is in Las Vegas with Texas A&M basketball. I'm Will Johnson stepping in for Andrew tonight. Let's start by saying, howdy, Ags. Happy Thanksgiving Eve, and are you ready for Saturday night at Kyle Field? Good to have you with us on the Aggie Football Hour, presented by Capital Farm Credit. We've got our head coach, Mike Elko, with us here at Rudy's Barbecue on Harvey Road. Good to see you. Happy Thanksgiving Eve to you, Coach.
Yeah, same thing to you, Will. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there listening. And obviously it's a big weekend. So we've been talking about this one for quite some time, and it's time to finally go play it.
Yeah, and I also learned that on the check-ins tonight, we won't need one from Apex, North Carolina, because they're right here in the house with us.
Yeah, we got the whole family here tonight, and so excited. They got in yesterday with school ending, and so they'll get to take in the festivities this week and get over to a little bit of yell practice on Friday and get ready for Saturday.
That's going to be nice. 5:30 yell practice at Kyle Field. You guys will get to be there.
And see how I transitioned from midnight yell to yell practice, given the time change. That was very subtle, yet very slick by me, I thought.
Good evening yell practice. It'll be nice. It's the Cotton Holdings Lone Star Showdown Saturday, A&M in Texas. And, Coach, it's not just a return of this rivalry. You have put yourself in position to play for a spot in the SEC championship game. We learned on Saturday night that Georgia would get one of those spots, but the winner of the Aggies and Longhorns gets the other. And that's part of this first year here at Texas A&M, and you were actually hired a year ago today.
Yeah, somebody told me that. I did not realize that, but somebody told me that this was my first day on the job last year. And it's funny, all through the offseason, that was my statement. When we did all the coaching tours and all the coaches' nights and everybody wanted to talk about the return of the rivalry, I kept saying to everybody, my job is to make sure I take care of the first 11 games in a way that 12th game means something more than just playing Texas. And obviously we were able to do that, and they held up their end of the bargain. And so now it's a winner-take-all showdown to get to Atlanta.
Yeah, but the process to get here, to get to this point, to put yourself in position to play for Atlanta, that process isn't just 11 Saturdays that led to this. I mean, it began that November day in which you were hired, off-season workouts, spring ball, summer, preseason camp, the prep you do each week for each Saturday. I mean, these guys bought in. Culture is right. It's right where it needs to be. I mean, it's led you here, everything you've put in place since that November day when you were hired.
Yeah, and it's funny that you talk about the one-year anniversary, so that means that was the first team meeting. And when you think about, where that team was and where we were from a culture standpoint, from a commitment standpoint, the direction really where we were headed at that point, to where we are now, on the eve of playing for a shot to go to Atlanta. From a big picture standpoint, we've accomplished a lot in 1 year. We've accomplished and established a foundation for what we want this program to look like, what we want the work ethic to look like, what we want the culture to be like. And I think we've really laid the groundwork for success moving forward, and hopefully that starts on Saturday.
Coming off that game at Auburn that went late into the night because it went into 4 overtimes, that means you get back really late.
I remember that, 4 overtimes.
But you kind of have a quicker turnaround to it all. It's Thanksgiving week. Got back really late on it was actually into Sunday morning at that point. But the week of prep, how have you liked it? These guys, you feel they'll be ready to go come 6:30 on Saturday night.
Yeah, and it'll take most of the week. It was obviously a hard-fought game. We put ourselves in a big hole, and than the amount of energy and emotion we had to spend getting back into that game to give ourselves a chance to win it, and unfortunately not be able to get it done, and the heartbreak of that, walking off the field that we had lost our shot, to then finding out in the locker room that we hadn't lost our shot, to then turning around and now getting ready for the rivalry with everything still on the line, and that part of it was an emotional roller coaster. And then you have the physical recovery that's needed coming out of a game like that, an SEC game that goes into 4 overtimes. You got the emotional recovery, and then you have a sleep recovery that needs to happen. And so we've been very intentional this week about how we've gone about that with the guys, and I think by the time we get to Saturday, they'll be ready to roll.
All right, Coach Elko with us. We're off and running on the Aggie Football Hour presented by Capital Farm Credit. We'll take a break for just a bit. We're back with more with Coach Elko here from Rudy's Barbecue on Harvey Road on the eve of Thanksgiving. Back in just a bit. This is Aggie Football from Learfield. Howdy, Ags. Look for your opportunities this season for your chance to win Texas A&M prizes from the Texas Lottery. The Texas Lottery proudly supports Texas education and veterans. Play the Texas Lottery today. Scratch 'em tickets and gig 'em. Welcome back to Rudy's on Harvey Road. It's the Aggie Football Hour presented by Capital Farm Credit with our head coach, Mike Elko, and a couple of early check-ins from very different places, I'd say. First one from Malakoff, Texas, where they play really good football.
Yeah.
Up there.
Yeah, very good
near
football.
Dallas. And then the other's Tokyo, Japan.
Probably play really good football there
they
too,
could.
potentially.
They could.
Yeah, I haven't been there to scout it.
I
don't want to shortchange Tokyo and what they're doing from a football standpoint.
I think you could recruit one area. I'm not sure about the other, though.
It'd be a challenge. It'd be a time zone challenge for sure.
Yeah, it'd be a lot.
We'll stick to Dallas. We'll stick to the Dallas area.
Yeah, no doubt. Thinking about some of the things you came off of that you take into this Texas game on Saturday night. First, Chase Basantes returned to the offensive line. That's nice to see and a nice boost for those guys up front.
Yeah, for sure. I think obviously he was missed, and not because TJ and Cam couldn't fill in, but because anytime you lose a guy, the rep count just changes, and how you got to spread it around and what you can do rotation-wise across the whole group. And so it was great to get Chase back out there. Hopefully he's able to recover this week and go out and have another good game on Saturday.
Noah Thomas had a nice game. He hit some big plays and grabbed a nice 50-50 ball for a touchdown.
Yeah, obviously Noah's a big part of our offense, and I think people know that, and so it hasn't always been the easiest trying to get him going and finally to be able to get him unhooked a little bit, and 2 touchdowns over 100 yards. That's obviously what we hope to see from him, and he'll need to do something similar to that again on Saturday.
Dalton Brooks got in for a sack, and I think about that secondary and guys like Dalton or a Bryce Anderson or a Marcus Ratcliffe. They do so much. I mean, it seems like you obviously want a guy in the secondary to cover, but it seems like those guys do so much more than cover. I mean, can you speak to their versatility and all that guys like Dalton, guys like Bryce give you back there with just all those things they can do in the back end?
Yeah, I think what we're trying to do is activate our safeties as much as we can, and we like to get them involved in different parts of the game, blitzes, coverages, different ways we can insert them into the run fits, and we try to be fairly multiple with what we do with those guys, and that's why I think you see them at the point of attack a lot, and Dalton has become a really, really good blitzer as the year has gone on. Bryce has gotten to be pretty good as a blitzer as well, and so then Marcus Ratcliffe is kind of our Swiss Army knife. He can play so many different roles, and obviously has the size to do some things at the linebacker position on third down too, and so it's been a good group.
And you talked about this at your presser on Monday, but we can hit it again because Scooby Williams went down, but you got asked the question about him, but he did return to the game. On Saturday night.
Yeah, Scooby went down, came back, was on the field for the 2-point plays. So we hope to have him available Saturday. We think he'll be fine by the time Saturday comes around. And Scooby's been a huge piece of our defense, obviously, this year, and with what he brings to the table. And then Damian Sanford was battling the flu last week, and so that was made us a little bit short at that spot too.
Okay, I had a question from the audience sitting on the table when we arrived here. So one that comes this early, got to get it into you. This comes from Travis class of 76. He wants to know why, Coach, when teams have a lead at the end of a game, why do so many choose to back away and try to not lose the game? I don't know. I mean, teams do that?
No, I don't think so. I think, I think unfortunately we dropped a snap. I think that, we went out there with every intention of being aggressive to put the game away and run the clock out and win the football game. And the first play of the game, unfortunately, we dropped the snap. And then you get into 2nd and 17 and your percentage chances of converting that go way down. And so at that point, you're trying to make sure at the very least you give them the ball back with no timeouts. And so that's, you kind of put yourselves behind the 8 ball when that happens. And then I think we blitzed on half of the plays on the last drive. We just didn't get it executed the way we needed to.
A bunch of check-ins coming in now. Elgin, Texas, Bandera, Texas, Front Royal, Virginia, Illinois, Connecticut. Everybody's checking in now.
Yeah.
So must be a big week with Aggie football.
I think so. Last radio show. I think people are excited for this being the last show, and it means football season's winding down. It's almost Christmas time.
Yeah.
Santa's Wonderland will be open before you know it.
Get in line early.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, we're back in a bit. More with Coach Elko coming up. We're at Rudy's Barbecue for the Aggie Football Hour presented by Capital Farm Credit. I want to remind you that Aggie's Can is celebrating over 2 decades of giving back to our local community. Electronic donations accepted now through November 30th. That's Saturday. That's the Texas game. Special thanks to Brookshire Brothers, HEB, KBTX, and for partnering with our Student Athlete Advisory Committee in support of the Brazos Valley Food Bank and the 12th Can. We're back in a bit to Rudy's Barbecue. It's Aggie football from Learfield. The Aggie Football Hour with Mike Elko is brought to you by Capital Farm Credit, the largest agricultural lender in Texas. Capital Farm Credit, together we're better. Welcome back to Rudy's Barbecue here on Harvey Road on Saturday night at Kyle Field. It's the Cotton Holdings Lone Star Showdown. First time since 2011, the Texas A&M Aggies and the Texas Longhorns will face off on the football field. We get it at Kyle. And Coach, another question coming to you from our audience. This comes from Barry, and he mentions the hiatus with the Texas rivalry. After all these years, how are players digesting and responding to their team being the first group of guys to renew this rivalry with Texas?
Yeah, I think they're excited. I think they're excited for the opportunity. I think they're excited to be the team that goes back on this field. We actually had Tony Girard-Eddy, who played here at Texas A&M and played in the rivalry, talk to the guys this morning, and part of his message was, this game is coming back for the first time in 13 years. There's only one team that's going to be the team that wins that. And that's an added ingredient of this where, as it comes back, as it returns, this team has a chance to kind of have a legacy of starting this rivalry back off with a bang.
Yeah, Tony played in it. Jordan Peterson he played in it.
Yeah, Tony Girard-Eddy played in the last one.
Yeah.
And Jared Peterson, Jordan Peterson. Wow, Jordan Peterson coached in it.
Yeah, and former players, do they ever chime in for you, about their games with Texas, or say, hey, go out and beat these guys now that the rivalry's back? Do you get much dialogue with those guys this time of year? And if so, do they send you the good luck messages when this game?
Yeah, not so much this time of year. I think most of our former players know at this point that we're knee deep in preparation and what we've got to do to put ourselves in position to be successful on Saturday. Certainly when you see those guys in the offseason, I'm sure as we get closer to the game and you start bumping into people in and around the hotel, or certainly Saturday when you start headed over to the stadium, I'm sure at those points, you'll start hearing a little bit of the conversation about what this means to them and getting this thing right.
Thought about the kind of atmosphere we'll have at Kyle Field.
Yeah, I'd imagine it's going to be a pretty raucous one. That would be my guess. It's I've said this all the way through, and I said this when I was here as a defensive coordinator. I've said it all the way through this year. The 12th man shows up for us as consistent as anything in the country, right? And you can count on a couple of things. We were talking about this earlier in the week. You can count on the sun rising in the east and over 100,000 people being in Kyle Field when the Aggies play football. And so those two things kind of go hand in hand. And so we certainly appreciate it, and it's been cool. We've gotten some big stage night games this year, and this is our third one, and it'd be an opportunity to kind of go out with a bang and a winning record in those big night games. And so it's important to us and important to the team.
Yeah, it made me think of it when you said you can always count on the 12th man. We were talking to you earlier this year for the Pulse, and you mentioned, you can play 11 a.m. against McNeese State, and you can still count on the 100,000 being there, even though the temperature may be about 100 degrees in September.
The sun will rise in the east, and over 100,000 people will be in Kyle Field. Those two things go hand in hand.
No doubt. Rivalry games, things can get elevated. Is it about keeping that prep though business as usual, and keep an even keel, and until it's time to take that field and kick things off on Saturday night?
Yeah, I think anytime you play a game, football is football, and we talk about that a lot in our preparation. And sometimes you're playing games where the team is perceived to be a little bit less than you, and you still have to prepare a certain way, and you have to do the things that you have to do to go out there and be successful, or football will always find a way to humble you, and that's the nature of the game. And then on the other side, when you play in these big games, these big opportunities, people can get ahead of themselves and think about the game and playing the game and not do the things they need to do from a preparation standpoint to put themselves in position to be successful in the game. I think that's equally important. And so you spend a lot of time on what it takes during the week to get yourself in position to go play your best football on Saturday. And our message has been very clear all year. Our best football for 3.5 hours will get it done. We've got to find a way to consistently do that, and that's been the challenge the last two SEC games, and we've got to figure out a way to flip that script and get back to playing the game the way we know how consistently for 4 quarters.
I was reading ESPN.com earlier today, and they did a feature article, and they went through all these rivalries that'll be played Saturday, and they kind of picked a hero of the past for each school in these rivalries. And for A&M, they picked Matt Bumgardner, who caught the game-winning touchdown in 1999, the victory over the Longhorns 8 days after the collapse of the bonfire. But I thought about it, thinking of this game Saturday as well. Is there could be those moments where your number is called in a rivalry game, and it can kind of stamp your legacy in that so-called Aggie lore if you're ready for that moment. I mean, is that something that can come from a rivalry game? You got to be ready. Each play, starter, backup guy, you got to be ready because your number could be called. And really, that's any Saturday. That may not take a rivalry game.
Yeah, I think you can look at those games all over the country and see the emotion that goes into that game, regardless of record, regardless of who's the predicted favorite, regardless of how anything's going. You can look at any of those big last weekend rivalries and pretty much know that you can't predict how the game's going to go, and most of the games are going to be extremely competitive and be one possession type games, and those create opportunities for players to step up. Sometimes those are the stars of the team. Sometimes those are guys who make their legacy by making the play in the rivalry game, right? And that's what makes it beautiful, right? And I still remember, in another realm, Shamanga Biaka Batuka, right, pops on the scene in the and everyone's going, who is this guy, right? And now all of a sudden he's an NFL, you know what I mean? But sometimes people just make names for themselves in these big rivalry games, and so that's the opportunities that get presented.
They're kind of part of the history that fans enjoy
for sure
in these games. Yeah. All right, back with Coach Elko a little bit more. Back a little later. This is that bridge.
Yeah, long bridge.
Yeah.
This is a long bridge. I go for a long walk on this one.
12th Man Foundation is the official fundraising organization and ticket provider for Texas A&M Athletics. Support a 75-year legacy and help shape the future of Aggie Athletics by donating today at 12thmanfoundation.com. A little bit of a break, then we're back with Coach Elko here on the Aggie Football Hour presented by Capital Farm Credit. This is Texas A&M football from Lear Field. Welcome back to Rudy's on Harvey Road. It's the Aggie Football Hour presented by Capital Farm Credit. 6:30 Saturday night or shortly after is kickoff between A&M and Texas. 5:30 is our St. Joseph Health pregame show with Andrew Monaco Dave Elmendorf and myself. Andrew is going to make his way back from Vegas to join us on Saturday.
He'll be here. Yeah, it's nice of him.
Nice to see Aggie basketball gets the win tonight.
Yeah, good one for Buzz. Yeah, it's always this time of year. I know they're always just trying to form their identity, and it's not quite the same as in the football world where everyone is make or break for the playoffs. But I know those ones are important to get those quad one wins, and so that's a big one for them tonight.
Mm-hmm. All right, when you need a new roof or just have a pesky leak, you want to call the winning team at Schulte Roofing, home of the bulletproof roof guarantee. Get the best. Visit SchulteRoofing.com. So back here with Coach Elko. We got the ball game coming up on Saturday night, and just looking at a few of the things as we head into this one. We like to throw our own stats out on the broadcast. I know Dave Elmendorf likes to talk turnovers. I'm kind of a red zone guy myself, and when I look at what you guys have done in the red zone this year, if you look at it in conference play, when you take on an SEC opponent, 21 touchdowns in the red zone this year on 26 trips. That's an incredible number. That's 80% the touchdown rate from the red zone. And if you compare with what every single other team has done in college football in conference play, that 80% ranks number one in the nation as far as your touchdown rate in the red zone. I mean, keys to success down there, obviously you work with the condensed field, but in games that are big, these SEC contests, you've made it happen down there inside the opponent's 20-yard line.
Yeah, it's a critical part of the game, and we talk about it. We reference it as 4-point plays. Anytime you get inside the 10-yard line, that's a 4-point play because that's the difference between the touchdown and the field goal, and and so an emphasis point is huge. But I also think for this season, we've had two really talented running backs that run very hard down there. That helps. We have an athletic quarterback who's mobile. That helps. And we have a 6'6" wide receiver and another one who's 6'3", and that helps. And so, we've got ways to attack people down there. And, to this point, we've been very effective.
Mm-hmm. And then you switch it over to the other side. It's still 4-point plays for the defense. Pretty good numbers as far as not allowing that high touchdown rate from your defense down there as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think the red zone defense stat we're not ranked very well, but that's not really, in my opinion, the one that matters. What matters to me is the touchdown rate, and you've got to try to keep the touchdown rate under 50% as a defense. I think that's what's critical. I think if you look at because there was years where I felt like we were really bad in red zone defense and we were ranked really high. And then there were years where we've been good at it and we were ranked really low, and it's so unpredictable, the field goal, who gets the team to miss the 35-yard field goal, right? Like that's not, there's no skill in that sometimes, and so really the challenge is how often can you keep them out of the end zone. I wish they would do that stat differently. I wish that would be the red zone stat, would be touchdown percentage.
Yeah, I always think that's the key one because I've always thought when you get to the red zone or if you allow a team in the red zone, there's probably points coming out of that anyway. Can you max it out?
Yeah, for sure. And as an offense or defense, the things that you can control is, do I score the touchdown and do I not turn the ball over? And defensively, do I not allow the touchdown or can I create the turnover? From an offense-defense standpoint, you don't have as much control over what happens with the field goal unit, and so there's some offenses that are good in the red zone whose field goal kicker doesn't bail them out when needed, and all of a sudden they're a really bad red zone offense, but they could be scoring touchdowns at 60% of the clip, but not kick the field goals that they get. It's just it's a weird stat the way they calculate it.
Yeah, and I'm a stats guy. I dig into them. Coaches may not be as much. I understand that, but I know after every game, AC over there, he hands you a box score, and you check it out a little bit. Well, what are the ones that maybe matter the most to you? You get that box score after the game. What are you checking out first that was important to your team?
I think the first thing to me is third down conversions. I think that's something we focus and spend a lot of time on. I think rushing yards is something that I'm always kind of in tune to a little bit because that usually determines who won the line of scrimmage, Obviously, passing yards matter, and the ability to throw the ball and stop the pass is really important. But if you can control the line of scrimmage in an SEC game, usually that's a pretty good recipe for success as well. And then turnovers. I think turnovers is probably the first one, but usually that one, so I don't look at that.
Yeah.
I don't look at that one because I always know that one, but that's probably the number one stat that's on that sheet that matters the most.
bit of news earlier today. Nick Scorton was named a finalist for the Lot Impact Award. Bryan, Texas native. He comes back home to play for you this year. It's the Lot Impact Award for various reasons, but the impact he's made on you and your program coming home to play football for you.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal. I think obviously his play has been really good. I think he's playing at a really high level. But also, the character he has, the value he has in the locker room, his leadership qualities. He's a pro in terms of how he conducts himself, and so he's been a phenomenal addition. It's been great to get him back home and play for the Yankees.
All right, another question here from the audience. This came from Steve. He asks, when you win on Saturday night, will you be okay with being known as the new king of Kyle dethroning George Strait?
I think for those of you who know me, that's not a title I would ever give myself. I'm long removed from ever being in the same sentence as George Strait and everything that he's accomplished, and so I'm going to just settle on a win Saturday night would put us in Atlanta, and I'll be the coach that put us in Atlanta.
That's a pretty good title too.
Nice question.
I did like it. That was good.
He told me so, and when I was walking around the audience, Steve said, "I got a good question for you."
Okay,
you'll
I was going to say you can't preface him with.
So
the
usually
question,
when they build it up like that, it doesn't live up to the billing. But that one did. That was a good question. That was a really good question.
Yeah. What is a preferred choice of music? I don't know if you have a pregame play. I don't know if you do music before games, but if you're just tuning in, what's the preferred choice?
I have said this on multiple occasions that I believe I have one of the most diverse Spotifys that you will find. So if it's not game day, it can range anywhere from new country to older country, older for me, which like hits the Kenny Chesney world and the Toby Keith world. That's old country for me. There's some Broadway mixed into that. My daughter and I were just discussing Wicked is out in the movies right now, and so that's something we'll have to go catch out. And so there's a little bit of that world that I live in when it's kind of when you're just trying to kind of veg out. But then on game day, it goes straight to my hip hop variety and my hip hop playlist. And so there's a wide variety of music on the Mike Elko Spotify list.
We hit Wicked on Monday, and then my kids saw it again on Tuesday.
Okay,
that's what it's going to get you into.
Yeah, no, we got a chance to see it in Broadway, and so the Elko, to give you a little bit of insight into the Elko family. The Elko family did a trip to New York City, and so we did one day where we just kind of walked around and went shopping for my wife. We did one day where we went to Wicked for my daughter, and then we did one day where we went to the Yankees baseball game for the boys. And so, and then we had to take my younger son around to see some of the lids and some of the hats and some of those things. And so,
got it all in.
Got it all in.
Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. All right. So the New York City trip went well. I like it. All right, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance wants to give you a VIP Aggie basketball fan experience this year. Go to 12man.com/maroon contest and register. Again, Aggie basketball, a winner tonight over Creighton. One winner of this contest and a guest will receive game tickets, a VIP tour of Reed Arena, and will be recognized on the video board during the game. Register today at 12man.com/maroon contest. Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, proud partner of A&M Athletics. We are back with more with our head coach, Mike Elko. After the break, it's Texas A&M football from Lear Field. Welcome back to Rudy's Barbecue here on the Aggie Football Hour, presented by Capital Farm Credit. A few more check-ins from Brownsboro, Texas, from Knoxville, Tennessee, volunteer country, checking in. Come visit Costa Vida in South College Station for Baja-style Mexican, made from scratch daily, serving breakfast tacos, lunch, and dinner. Aggie-owned and operated, and a proud partner of Texas A&M Athletics. Also, Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania.
Ooh, Lehigh Valley.
Yeah.
My roommate was from Easton, Pennsylvania, which is in the Lehigh Valley.
All right.
College roommate.
There you go. So
we got to hold on. We have a question.
We got a question?
We have a question from the audience.
We do.
This comes in from Caitlin Elko via text message from the back of the room.
Hard hitting.
She would like to know whether her dad is going to buy her a second dog yet. And the answer to that is a resounding no.
Oh.
Even though she's trying to slip it in on radio.
Well, you're getting a confirmation on that no.
She's trying to put me under the white hot light of this pressure, but I'm going to stay strong and say that's a hard no.
Who is the current dog
Yeah, so we have a
household.
miniature golden doodle that we got. So that was part of the deal when we came here to Texas A&M from Notre Dame. That was part of it for her. She had been petitioning me with slideshows and PowerPoints for about 2.5 years on why she needed a dog and why that was the right dog. And so we caved and we went and we got her Coco is the dog's name, and she's actually in town too. So she's in town for Thanksgiving also. But yeah, so now she's convinced that we need a second one because we're coming back to College Station. And that's what happened the last time, and we had success, and so we should get one the second time. And no.
Sorry. You
weren't ready for that.
No,
you didn't have any notes on that.
No, I did not have Coco down at all, but I'm writing it down now.
There you go.
Well, but it did jog my memory of when Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania checked in. You said your roommate was from Easton, Pennsylvania. You're a New Jersey native. Tomorrow, Thanksgiving, one of the staples of Thanksgiving is that the Cowboys play.
It is.
In New Jersey, you're surrounded by the rest of the NFC East. The Giants in New York, the Eagles in Philadelphia, and then formerly the Redskins, now Commanders in Washington, D.C. But growing up in New Jersey, you got out of that triangle. You were a Cowboys fan.
I was. So Thanksgiving in New Jersey, the first part of it was high school football. So the high school rivalry games are played traditionally on Thanksgiving weekend, or had been. I think they just got away from that a couple of years ago. So every Thanksgiving weekend, it was the local high school rivalry game. That's where the day started. And then I've told this story to some people. So I have a bunch of family that lives in the Philadelphia suburbs, and so they're all huge Eagles fans. My great uncle, who I spent a lot of time watching football with as a kid, was a lawyer in the Navy, and so he was a huge Washington Commanders fan. At the time when I was getting into that world in the early 80s, the Giants weren't particularly strong, and so I didn't want to be like them because I couldn't pick one or the other. So I went my own direction, and I just became a Cowboys fan. And so that was, the John Riggins Redskins and the Tony Dorsett Cowboys, and those were my early NFL memories. And then went through the dark days when it was a big struggle, and then when I was in high school, college was the 90s run with all of the great Cowboys, Emmitt Smith and Aikman and Irvin and all those guys, and then I got into coaching, and so I haven't lived the Cowboy life in a long time, which my assistant Brandy Douglas lives weekly, and apparently isn't a lot of fun these days.
Well, they got the Giants tomorrow. Maybe that'll be a little funner because they're still not doing great.
You'll have to ask Miss Brandy.
That's right.
How fun is it?
All right, we're back in a bit to close things out with Coach Elko here on the Aggie Football Hour presented by Capital Farm Credit. Back to Rudy's in just a bit. It's Texas A&M football from Learfield. All right, almost time to say goodbye on this season finale of the Aggie Football Hour presented by Capital Farm Credit. Again, 6:30 Saturday night. It'll be after 6:30, a little bit after 6:30. The renewal of the rivalry, Texas A&M will take on Texas at Kyle Field. At 5:30 is our St. Joseph Health pregame show across the radio network with Andrew Monaco, Dave Elmendorf, and myself. And, Coach, before we go, I had to do this at the end here. Apparently, at various times on this program, there were some check-ins from the Italy A&M club.
Yep.
And that turned into Andrew Monaco trying to pitch for a Tuscany coaches night of some
there
sort.
Was I think Andrew Monaco and Michelle Elko were working hard to get a Tuscany coaches night.
Will that show need a sideline reporter? Because I'm game.
You'd have to ask the boss.
We'll see.
Either Andrew or Michelle, depending on which side of the fence you're on. One of those two will be running the show for that.
Okay. Well, we do have something here. Ryan Price is Aggie class of '91. He's president of the Italy A&M club.
Okay.
He has gifts. He came to the New Mexico State game.
Okay.
And brought gifts. So this is your package from the Italy A&M club.
Oh, look at that.
This is the finest olive oils from their olive groves in Italy. spices.
Okay.
And this, I think, is the topper of it all. These are fantastic. I haven't dug into yours. I had a bad.
I appreciate you not eating mine.
These are paprika Pringles.
Oh, wow.
Which you can only get in Italy. You cannot get these in the States.
How about that?
So
thank you to the Italy A&M Club.
Ryan Price, class of 91. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
This
I
is
appreciate that.
an enticement to get that Tuscany Coaches Night.
We for sure are down. So if that can get organized, Ryan, and you could figure out a date, Michelle and I will be there, and we will be there for the first ever Tuscany Coaches Night. And I'm getting some hand signals from over there that there's some others who I think need to be there as well, apparently.
So we've sorted out New Dog No, possibly yes on the Tuscany Coaches Night.
Possibly yes on the Tuscany. And apparently we need a sideline reporter, and there's some other administrative tasks that need to be performed over in Italy as well.
Other duties as assigned. When you work in athletics, it works that way. Coach, happy Thanksgiving. All the best to you Saturday night. Can't wait to get out there and renew this rivalry, but also on this program all season long. Thanks for making yourself available to the fans. Appreciate your time.
No, we thank you guys for this season. Thank you for coming out every week. Thanks for everything you do. And to the Aggies out there, happy Thanksgiving. Gig 'em, and we're going to saw them off on Saturday.
All righty. And we did get a chow from the Italy A&M Club over in Tuscany to close us out. Appreciate you, Coach. Happy Thanksgiving to all the Aggies out there. Our engineer tonight, Kevin Minchow, our producer, Ryan Clark, handling the stream for us tonight. Matt Simon, thanks to everybody. We will see you Saturday at Kyle Field, 6:30, or a little after 6:30 is kickoff. Texas A&M and Texas, the rivalry is renewed. Again, this is the season finale of the Aggie Football Hour presented by Capital Farm Credit with our head coach, Mike Elko. We thank you for joining us from Rudy's Barbecue. Happy Thanksgiving, Aggies. We will see you Saturday at Kyle Field.